There's a health practice sweeping through communities in Okinawa and Kyoto that's keeping people in their 70s and 80s more mobile, more independent, and cognitively sharper than Americans 20 years younger. Yet, walk into any gym or senior center across the United States and you'll rarely see anyone doing it. The statistics are startling. In Japan, nearly 40% of people over 70 can still squat comfortably to the ground and rise without assistance. In America, that number drops below 12%. We're not talking about genetics here. We're talking about a single movement pattern that's been part of daily Japanese life for centuries. And it's so simple that you can start practicing it right now in your living room. But here's what makes this truly fascinating. This isn't just about mobility. Recent analyses from longevity research centers have found associations between this practice and everything from improved balance to reduced fall risk to better cognitive function in older adults. The mechanism involves something called proprioception, your body's ability to know where it is in space. And when that system stays sharp, your brain stays sharp. Before we go further, do me a favor and drop a comment right now with your age and where you're watching from. I'm curious how many of you have heard about this practice, and I promise by the end of this video you'll understand why it might be the single most important movement you're not doing. Now, I'm going to walk you through 7 variations of this core Japanese practice, starting with the gentlest modification you can do even if you haven't exercised in years, building up to the traditional form that offers maximum benefit. Number 7 is accessible to almost everyone. Number 4 has a surprising twist that targets your vestibular system in ways Western exercises completely ignore. But number 1, the purest form practiced in Japanese homes every single day, is so deceptively simple that when I first learned about it, I dismissed it completely. I was wrong. That movement has a ripple effect through your entire body that researchers are only beginning to understand. Let's start with what most people get wrong about aging and movement. Somewhere in your 50s or 60s, you probably started avoiding getting down on the floor. Maybe your knees hurt. Maybe you worried you wouldn't be able to get back up. Maybe you just thought, I'm too old for that. Here's the problem. The human body operates on a use it or lose it principle. And the moment you stop practicing ground-level movements, you begin losing the variabilities you need to stay independent. Think about what happens when you can't comfortably lower yourself to the floor or rise back up. You stop playing with grandchildren on the carpet. You avoid certain exercises. You become dependent on furniture and walls for support. Your world literally shrinks upward. In Japan, daily life traditionally includes sitting on floor cushions, kneeling at low tables, and moving through positions that require you to fold and unfold your body dozens of times a day. They're not doing this as exercise. They're doing it as life. But the side effect is remarkable. Their hips stay mobile. Their knees retain range of motion. The small stabilizer muscles in their ankles and feet stay active and responsive. The practice we're focusing on today is called shojin, though most Japanese people wouldn't even call it that because it's so woven into daily routine. The word roughly translates to devoted practice or disciplined training, but in the context of movement it means cultivating your body's natural patterns through repetition. The core movement is a deep squat hold, but not the way you might picture it. This is a flat-footed squat where your heels stay planted on the ground, your spine stays relatively upright, and you settle into a resting position that people in many traditional cultures can hold comfortably for minutes at a time. In the West, we've almost entirely lost this position. We sit in chairs. We sit in cars. We bend at the waist with straight legs, or we kneel on padded surfaces. The deep squat, where your hips drop below your knees and your feet stay flat, has become something only toddlers and athletes practice. Yet this is the position your body was designed to access. Before chairs were common, humans rested in squats. We eliminated waste in squats. We cooked, ate, and socialized in squats. Your hip joints, your ankle joints, your spine, they all have the architecture for this. We've just forgotten how to use it. Let me tell you about Margaret, 73, a retired librarian from Ohio. 3 years ago, she fell in her bathroom reaching for a towel. Nothing broke, but the fall shook her confidence so badly she started using a walker even though her doctor said she didn't need one. Her daughter saw a video about Japanese longevity practices and called me asking if there was any way her mother could regain her stability. Margaret couldn't squat at all when we started. Getting down to the floor required a complex process involving a chair, the couch arm, and significant anxiety. We began with the gentlest entry point, which I'll show you in a moment, and worked progressively. Within 8 weeks, Margaret could lower herself into a supported squat and hold it for 15 seconds. Within 4 months, she was practicing a flat-footed squat for 30 seconds every morning. But here's what mattered most. 6 months in, she stopped using the walker. Her confidence returned. Last month, she told me she got down on the floor to help her grandson build a block tower, something she never thought she'd do again. That shift happened because we rebuilt her body's trust in its own positioning system. Here's variation number 7. Your entry point if you're starting from scratch or dealing with significant mobility limitations. This is the supported countertop squat. Stand facing your kitchen counter or a sturdy table at about waist height. Place both hands flat on the surface. Step your feet back slightly so you're leaning forward at maybe a 20-degree angle. Now, keeping your hands pressed down for support, bend your knees and lower your hips as far as you comfortably can. Don't worry about how deep you go. If you only drop 6 inches, that's fine. The goal is to feel the sensation of your weight shifting back into your hips while your hands provide stability. Hold whatever depth you reach for 5 seconds, then press through your hands and return to standing. That's 1 repetition. Do 3 repetitions twice a day, morning and evening. This teaches your brain that lowering your center of gravity is safe and controlled. You're not going to fall because your hands are managing the load. The mechanism here is neurological as much as physical. Your body has sensors in your joints, muscles, and inner ear that constantly feed information to your brain about position and balance. When you stop challenging these systems, they become less responsive. It's like a smoke detector that's never tested. The hardware might still work, but the circuitry gets sluggish. By practicing this supported squat, you're waking up those sensors. Your ankles are learning to flex. Your knees are tracking through a fuller range. Your hips are remembering how to hinge. And your brain is building confidence in the pattern. Data from rehabilitation centers working with older adults has shown that even minimal daily practice of supported squatting can improve balance metrics within 3 to 4 weeks. You're not building massive strength yet. You're building competence and trust. Now let's talk about number 6, the doorway squat. This adds a vertical support element that mimics one of the ways Japanese elders practice when they need assistance. Find a doorway in your home. Stand in the frame facing the opening. Reach up and grip both sides of the frame at about shoulder height or slightly higher. Your arms should be extended but not locked. Feet are hip-width apart, a few inches back from the threshold. Now, holding the frame firmly, bend your knees and lower yourself into a squat. Let your arms take as much weight as you need. The difference between this and the countertop version is that you're pulling upward slightly on the frame, which engages your back and shoulder muscles and allows you to descend deeper without fear. Go as low as you can while keeping your feet flat. If your heels want to lift, stop just before that point. Hold the bottom position for 5 to 10 seconds. You should feel a stretch in your hips, your ankles, your groin. Then pull yourself back up using the doorway for assistance. Do this 3 times, once a day to start. The beauty of the doorway squat is that it gives you feedback. If you're gripping too hard, your forearms will fatigue quickly. That tells you you're relying too much on upper body and not enough on leg and hip control. Over a few weeks, you should notice you're pulling less and simply using the doorway for balance. That's progress. One detail that matters: keep your chest relatively upright. Don't fold forward at the waist. Imagine a string attached to your sternum pulling you gently toward the ceiling. This alignment keeps your spine safe and trains the squat pattern correctly. A common mistake is to let your knees collapse inward. Keep them tracking in line with your toes. If your knees dive toward each other, widen your stance slightly. Frank, 68, former electrician from Michigan, started with doorway squats after a knee replacement left him nervous about loaded movements. His physical therapist had cleared him for activity, but Frank didn't trust his own knee. The doorway gave him a security he needed. First week, he could only go halfway down and his arms were burning. Second week, he reached a point where his thighs were almost parallel to the ground. By week 5, he was holding a full squat for 20 seconds, and more importantly, his confidence in that knee had returned. He told me the mental shift was bigger than the physical one. He stopped seeing his body as fragile. That change is what we're after. Now, number 5, the sit-to-squat transition. This one introduces dynamic movement and trains your ability to control your descent and rise, which is directly linked to fall prevention. You'll need a sturdy chair or a low bench, something around knee height. Sit on the edge, feet flat, hip width apart. Lean your torso forward slightly, bringing your chest toward your thighs. Now, press through your feet and stand up, but only rise halfway. Stop when your hips are just above the seat. Hold that semi-standing position for 3 seconds. Your thighs will start to burn. That's the point. Then lower yourself back to sitting with control. Don't just drop. Take 3 full seconds to descend. That's 1 repetition. Do 5 repetitions twice a day. This variation builds eccentric strength, which is your muscle's ability to control lengthening under load. When you slowly lower yourself, your quads, glutes, and core are working hard to resist gravity. Eccentric strength is one of the first things we lose as we age, and it's one of the most critical for preventing falls. If you trip, your ability to catch yourself depends on your muscle's capacity to contract while lengthening. That's eccentric control. Research from movement science labs has found that eccentric training in older adults can produce strength gains comparable to or even exceeding traditional concentric exercises, often with less joint stress. The sit-to-squat transition gives you that benefit in a functional pattern. After a few weeks of practice, add this progression. Instead of stopping halfway up, stand fully, then immediately lower into a full squat if you can, or as deep as you're able, without sitting back down. Hold the squat for a breath, then return to standing, then sit. That's a more advanced sequence, and you're training your body to transition smoothly through multiple positions. In Japan, this kind of transition happens naturally. Someone might stand from a floor cushion, walk across the room, kneel to pour. T, stand again, and squat to retrieve something from a low shelf. Each transition is a micro-workout. We're trying to recapture that fluidity. Let me introduce you to Helen, 71, a retired accountant from Florida. Helen had watched her mother become frail in her 80s, losing the ability to rise from a chair without help, and she was terrified of the same fate. She started the sit-to-squat progression with a high chair because her legs were weak. The first week was humbling. She couldn't control her descent at all and would plop down hard, but she kept at it. By week 3, she could lower slowly. By week 7, she was using a lower bench. 4 months in, she tested herself and rose from a low stool without any hand support. She cried. She told me it was the first time in a decade she felt truly strong. That emotional component is real. Regaining a movement you thought you'd lost forever changes how you see yourself. Here's number 4, and this is where things get interesting. The rocking squat. This variation adds a dynamic balance challenge that directly targets your vestibular system, the inner ear mechanism that governs your sense of equilibrium. Most balance training in the West involves standing on one leg or walking heel to toe. Those are useful, but they're static or linear. The rocking squat introduces multiplanar motion while you're in a vulnerable position, and that combination is incredibly powerful. Start in a supported squat position using a countertop or chair back for light hand support. Get as deep as you can, comfortably manage with feet flat. Now, gently shift your weight forward onto the balls of your feet. Your heels will lift slightly. Hold for 2 seconds. Then rock back, pressing your heels into the ground and letting your weight settle into your hips. Hold for 2 seconds. That's 1 rock. Do 10 rocks, moving slowly and smoothly. The challenge is maintaining your balance as your center of gravity shifts forward and back. Your ankles, knees, and hips are all making micro-adjustments. Your inner ear is sending rapid-fire signals to your brain about where you are in space. Your eyes are feeding visual information. All three systems, vestibular, visual, and proprioceptive, are integrating in real time. This is high-level motor control. When these systems stay sharp, you don't fall. You catch yourself. You adjust. A stumble becomes a quick step instead of a trip to the emergency room. Studies on fall prevention in older adults consistently show that training dynamic balance, not just static balance, produces the most significant risk reduction. The rocking squat gives you dynamic balance training inside a functional movement pattern. Add this once you're comfortable. Close your eyes for a few of the rocks. Removing visual input forces your vestibular and proprioceptive systems to work harder. Start with just 2 or 3 rocks with eyes closed, and only if you feel stable. You'll immediately notice it's more challenging. That's your brain adapting. Over weeks, your non-visual balance will improve, and that's a game changer. Imagine walking in a dark room or on uneven ground. Your ability to stay upright without seeing clearly is what keeps you safe. Thomas, 65, a former pilot from Texas, started the rocking squat after a minor stroke left him with some balance issues. His neurologist recommended vestibular therapy, but the clinic was 40 minutes away and the sessions were expensive. Thomas found videos on Japanese movement practices and contacted me. We started with eyes open, very slow rocks, hands on a chair. First week, he felt dizzy. Second week, less so. By week 6, he could do 15 rocks with eyes closed and no support. His follow-up with the neurologist showed measurable improvement in his balance testing. His doctor asked what therapy he'd been doing. Thomas said he'd been practicing an old Japanese squat technique. The doctor had never heard of it but told him to keep it up. Now we're at number 3, the breath hold squat. This introduces a respiratory component that amplifies the mind-body connection and trains your diaphragm, which is both a breathing muscle and a core stabilizer. Get into your squat position as deep as you can go with good form. Once you're settled, take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your belly, not just your chest. Hold that breath for 5 seconds while maintaining your squat. Don't tense up. Stay as relaxed as possible in the hold. Then exhale slowly, through your mouth, taking another 5 seconds to empty your lungs completely. That's 1 cycle. Do 5 cycles. The combination of breath control and postural challenge creates a unique training stimulus. Your diaphragm is working to stabilize your spine while also managing air pressure. Your core muscles are engaged to maintain position, and the focused breathing keeps your nervous system calm, which prevents you from tensing up or holding your breath in a way that raises blood pressure. In traditional Japanese practice, breath control is inseparable from movement. Martial arts, tea ceremony, even gardening, all emphasize coordinated breathing. The principle is simple. Controlled breath equals controlled mind, and controlled mind equals controlled body. When you're in a challenging physical position and you're breathing smoothly, you're teaching your nervous system that challenge doesn't equal panic. This has carryover into daily life. If you trip, if you're startled, if you have to react quickly, your body will respond with composure instead of flailing. There's also a cardiovascular element. Holding a squat while managing your breath elevates your heart rate slightly, giving you a mild conditioning effect without any impact. For people over 60 who might have joint concerns or cardiovascular limitations, this is a way to train your system safely. I want to tell you about Linda, 74, a retired nurse from California. Linda had chronic anxiety, something she'd managed for years with medication and therapy. She started practicing Japanese squat variations as part of a wellness experiment. The breath hold squat became her favorite. She told me that forcing herself to breathe slowly and deeply while in a physically demanding position gave her a sense of control she'd never felt in other exercises. After 3 months, she noticed her general anxiety levels had decreased. She wasn't sure if it was the physical practice, the breathing, or the combination, but something was working. Her therapist noted the change and encouraged her to continue. Linda now does 5 minutes of breath hold squats every morning, and she says it sets the tone for her entire day. She feels grounded. Here's number 2, and this is the one that surprises most people: the rotating squat. You're going to add a twisting motion to your squat hold, which introduces thoracic spine mobility and further challenges your balance. Get into your squat. Feet flat, as deep as you can go. Bring your hands together in front of your chest like a prayer position. Now, keeping your hips and feet stable, rotate your upper body to the right. Your hands and chest turn, but your lower body stays facing forward. Hold that twist for 3 seconds. Return to center. Rotate to the left. Hold for 3 seconds. Return to center. That's 1 full rotation. Do 5 full rotations. The twist activates your obliques, the muscles on the sides of your torso, and it mobilizes your thoracic spine, the mid-back region that tends to stiffen as we age. Here's why this matters. Most people lose rotational mobility first. You stop being able to look over your shoulder comfortably when backing up the car. You can't turn to grab something from the back seat. You lose the ability to twist and reach, which is exactly the movement that often causes injury when you try to do it suddenly without preparation. The rotating squat keeps that range of motion alive, and because you're doing it from a squat position, your core has to work overtime to stabilize your pelvis while your upper body moves independently. That's advanced motor control. In Okinawa, people in their 80s are still working in gardens, twisting to plant, bending to harvest, rotating to carry. They're not thinking about core stability or spinal mobility. They're just moving the way humans are supposed to move, and their bodies stay capable because they never stop asking them to perform these patterns. One note of caution. If you have a history of lower back issues, start the rotating squat with very small twists. Just turn your shoulders a few degrees each way. Over weeks, increase the range as your body adapts. Never push into pain. Some discomfort from muscles working is fine. Sharp or shooting pain is a signal to stop and reassess. You can also do this variation with one hand lightly touching a wall or chair for balance if the twist makes you feel unstable. There's no prize for doing it unsupported. The goal is to train the movement safely. Paul, 69, a retired contractor from Arizona, had spent 40 years twisting, lifting, and bending on job sites, and his back showed it. He had chronic stiffness and limited rotation. His doctor recommended yoga, but Paul felt awkward in a class setting. He started practicing rotating squats at home after watching a video on Japanese longevity habits. First week, he could barely turn his shoulders 10 degrees without his hips wanting to follow. It was frustrating. But he kept going. By week 4, he had noticeably more range. By week 10, he could rotate nearly 90 degrees while keeping his hips forward. The biggest change was functional. He could turn to check his blind spot while driving without moving his whole torso. He could reach across his workbench without stepping around. Those small improvements added up to a big quality-of-life boost. He told me it felt like his spine had been unlocked. Before we get to number 1, take a second and try something right now. Stand up if you're able. Place your feet hip-width apart. Bend your knees slightly and see how far you can lower your hips while keeping your heels on the ground. Don't force it. Just notice where you stop. Can you get your hips below your knees? Do your heels start to lift? Does your back round? There's no judgment here. This is just a baseline. Remember where you are right now, because if you practice these variations consistently, you'll be amazed at how much you improve in just a few weeks. Now, number 1. The pure flat-footed squat hold, exactly as it's practiced in traditional Japanese homes. No support, no modifications, just you and gravity and your body's architecture. This is the movement that delivers the maximum benefit, and it's the one that most Americans over 60 have completely lost. Here's how you do it. Stand with your feet slightly wider than hip width, toes pointing forward or angled out slightly, whatever feels natural. Take a breath. Begin to lower yourself by pushing your hips back and bending your knees. Keep your chest up and your weight in your heels and midfoot. Descend as low as you can go while keeping your heels flat on the ground. Ideally, your hips will drop below your knees, your thighs will be nearly vertical, and your torso will be upright or leaning slightly forward. Your arms can hang between your legs or rest on your knees. This is your resting squat. Hold this position for 30 seconds. Breathe normally. Then stand up by pressing through your feet. Rest for a minute and repeat. Work up to 3 holds of 30 seconds each, once a day. This position does something remarkable. It decompresses your lower back. Your spine can lengthen and relax in a way that sitting or standing doesn't allow. It opens your hips through a full range of motion. It stretches your Achilles tendons and calf muscles. It activates your glutes and core stabilizers. And it sends a flood of proprioceptive information to your brain, keeping your neural pathways for balance and coordination sharp. In Japan, people rest in this position while waiting for a train, while gardening, while talking with neighbors. It's not exercise. It's just how you exist. But the cumulative effect over a lifetime is profound. Their joints stay mobile. Their muscles stay functional. They don't lose the movement, so they don't lose the capacity. Here's the hard truth. If you're over 60 and you've been sitting in chairs for decades, you might not be able to achieve a full flat-footed squat on your first try. That's okay. This is a practice, not a test. Start with the supported variations we've covered. Do the countertop squat for a few weeks. Progress to the doorway squat. Work through the sit-to-squat transitions. Add the rocking and rotating elements. Each variation is building the strength, mobility, and confidence you need to eventually hold the pure squat. It might take you 3 months. It might take you 6. The timeline doesn't matter. What matters is that you're moving in the right direction. Let me tell you about Robert, 76, a retired engineer from Oregon. Robert couldn't squat at all when we started. He had knee arthritis, hip stiffness, and a fear of falling that had kept him sedentary for years. We began with the countertop squat, just 3 reps twice a day. Progress was slow. After 2 months, he could do a doorway squat to about 45 degrees. After 4 months, he managed a full sit-to-squat transition with control. At the 6-month mark, he sent me a video. He was holding a flat-footed squat, heels down, for 15 seconds. He was shaking a little, but he was doing it. At 7 months, he hit 30 seconds. Now, 8 months in, he does his squat hold every morning after his coffee. He told me it's become a non-negotiable part of his routine, like brushing his teeth. But more than that, he said it changed how he thinks about aging. He spent years assuming his body would only decline. The squat practice showed him he could reclaim movement he thought was gone forever. That mindset shift is the real transformation. There's a concept in Japanese culture called kaizen, continuous improvement. It's the idea that small, incremental changes compound over time into significant results. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. You don't have to spend hours in a gym. You just have to commit to a small practice every day and trust the process. The squat variations we've covered are your kaizen for movement. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Over weeks and months, those minutes accumulate into a body that's stronger, more stable, and more capable. And here's the beautiful part. The benefits extend beyond the physical. When you practice these movements, you're also practicing patience, discipline, and self-compassion. You're learning to listen to your body, to respect its limits while gently expanding them. You're building a relationship with your own physicality that's based on curiosity and care, not fear or avoidance. Let's talk about a few practical tips to make this practice sustainable. First, consistency beats intensity. It's better to do 3 minutes of gentle squatting every single day than to do a 30-minute session once a week. Your nervous system adapts through repetition, and daily practice keeps those neural pathways active. Second, pair your squat practice with something you already do. Squat while your coffee brews. Squat while you're waiting for the microwave. Squat during a commercial break. Habit stacking makes it easier to remember and harder to skip. Third, track your progress. Keep a simple journal. Write down which variation you did, how many reps or how long you held it, and how it felt. Over weeks, you'll see patterns. You'll notice improvements. That feedback is motivating. Fourth, don't compare yourself to anyone else. This isn't a competition. The 70-year-old in a YouTube video who can squat for 5 minutes didn't start there. They built up over time, just like you will. Your only comparison is yourself yesterday. Are you slightly better than you were last week? That's success. Fifth, listen to your body but distinguish between discomfort and pain. Muscle fatigue, a stretching sensation, mild shaking, those are signs your body is working and adapting. Sharp pain, joint clicking that's accompanied by pain, numbness, or tingling, those are signals to stop and potentially consult with a healthcare provider. If you have a history of knee or hip issues, talk to your doctor before starting any new movement practice. Most will encourage it, but it's always smart to get clearance. Sixth, focus on your breath. If you're holding your breath, you're doing it wrong. Smooth, steady breathing keeps your nervous system calm and your muscles oxygenated. Inhale as you lower, exhale as you rise, or find a rhythm that feels natural. Just keep the air moving. Seventh, be patient with your ankles. For many people, ankle mobility is the limiting factor in achieving a flat-footed squat. If your heels lift when you try to go deep, it's often because your Achilles tendons are tight. You can work on this by standing on a step with your heels hanging off the edge and gently lowering your heels below the level of the step. Hold for 20 seconds. Do this a few times a day, and over weeks your ankle range will improve. Eighth, consider your footwear. Practice these squats barefoot or in minimal shoes. Thick-soled shoes or shoes with a raised heel can interfere with your natural foot mechanics. You want to feel the ground. You want your toes to spread. You want your arches to engage. Barefoot practice strengthens the small muscles in your feet and improves your overall balance. Ninth, if you have access to a physical therapist or a movement coach who understands functional mobility, consider a session or two. They can assess your specific limitations, watch your form, and give you personalized cues. You don't need ongoing sessions, just a check-in to make sure you're on the right track. 10th, celebrate small wins. The first time you hold a squat for 10 seconds, acknowledge it. The first time you descend without support, savor it. These moments are milestones. They're proof that your body is capable of change at any age. There's a larger principle at work here that goes beyond squatting. What we're really talking about is maintaining your body's fundamental movement vocabulary. Squatting is one word in that vocabulary, but there are others. Hinging at the hips, rotating your spine, reaching overhead, balancing on one leg, crawling on the ground. These are patterns humans evolved to perform, and when we stop using them, we become fragile. The Japanese approach to aging recognizes this. Movement isn't something you do for 30 minutes at the gym and then forget about. Movement is woven into the fabric of daily life. You kneel to garden. You squat to pick up a basket. You walk to the market. You climb stairs. Each action is an opportunity to maintain your physical capacity. In contrast, Western culture has engineered movement out of daily life. We drive everywhere. We sit in ergonomic chairs. We use tools and devices that minimize physical effort. On one hand, that's made life easier. On the other hand, it's made us weaker. The solution isn't to reject modern convenience entirely. It's to intentionally reintroduce movement patterns that keep us functional. The squat practice we've discussed is a perfect example. It doesn't require equipment. It doesn't require a gym membership. It doesn't even require much space. You can do it in your kitchen, your bedroom, your backyard. All it requires is a commitment to showing up for your body every day. Let me share one more story. Joyce, 72, a retired teacher from Pennsylvania, started practicing these squat variations after her sister had a bad fall that resulted in a broken hip. Joyce watched her sister struggle through months of recovery and lose a significant amount of independence, and it terrified her. She decided she needed to be proactive. Joyce began with the countertop squat. She was diligent. Every morning before breakfast, every evening before bed. After 3 weeks, she moved to the doorway squat. After 6 weeks, she added the sit-to-squat transitions. 3 months in, she was doing breath-hold squats and rotating squats. At the 4-month mark, she achieved her first unsupported flat-footed squat and held it for 20 seconds. But here's what Joyce told me that really stuck with me. She said that the practice had given her a sense of agency over her aging that she'd never felt before. She wasn't waiting to see what her body would lose. She was actively preserving and building. She felt like she was participating in her own future instead of just reacting to decline. That's powerful. That's the shift we're all capable of making. As you move forward with this practice, I want you to think about legacy. What do you want your body to be able to do 5 years from now? 10 years from now? Do you want to get down on the floor to play with great-grandchildren? Do you want to travel without worrying about mobility limitations? Do you want to maintain your independence for as long as possible? The choices you make today, the small practices you commit to, those are the foundation of your future capacity. The squat practice is a deposit into that future. Every rep, every hold, every moment you spend challenging your body in a healthy way is an investment. And unlike financial investments, this one has no risk of losing value. Your body will respond. It might take time. It might take patience. But it will respond. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one of the 7 variations we've covered. Start with the one that feels accessible but slightly challenging. Commit to practicing it twice a day for the next 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. See what happens. Notice how your body feels. Notice if you're getting deeper or holding longer. Notice if your confidence is building. After 2 weeks, decide if you want to continue. I'm guessing you will, because you'll start to feel the difference. And once you feel the difference, there's no going back. You'll realize that you're not too old for this. You're exactly the right age to start. Before we wrap up, I want to address one question I get asked a lot. What if I've had a knee or hip replacement? Can I still do these squats? The answer is usually yes, but with modifications and with your doctor's clearance. Joint replacements are incredibly durable, and most orthopedic surgeons encourage patients to regain as much range of motion as possible. Start with the supported variations. Use more assistance. Go less deep. Progress slowly. Many people with joint replacements successfully practice these movements. The key is to work within your body's current limitations and gradually expand them. Don't assume you can't do something. Explore, adapt, and find what works for you. Another common question. What if I have balance issues or vertigo? Again, start supported. Use the countertop or doorway variations where you have something to hold on to. Practice near a wall or a sturdy piece of furniture. And consider consulting with a vestibular therapist who can give you specific exercises to improve your balance before you progress to more challenging squat variations. The goal is always to meet yourself where you are and move forward safely. One more thing. If you've been sedentary for a long time, you might experience some muscle soreness when you start these practices. That's normal. It's your muscles adapting to new demands. The soreness should be mild and should decrease as your body gets used to the movements. If the soreness is severe or lasts more than a few days, you might be pushing too hard too fast. Scale back. Do fewer reps or hold for shorter times. There's no rush. This is a lifelong practice, not a sprint. I also want to acknowledge that some of you might feel resistance to this. You might be thinking, I'm too old, or I've never been flexible, or I've tried exercise before and it didn't work. I get it. Change is hard, especially when it involves your body, and especially when you've internalized messages about aging being synonymous with decline. But I'm asking you to question those messages. Decline is not inevitable. Yes, aging brings changes. But many of the limitations we associate with age are actually the result of disuse, not age itself. Study after study has shown that people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s can build strength, improve balance, and regain mobility with consistent practice. Your body wants to move. It's designed to adapt. Give it the opportunity. Think about the Japanese elders who inspired this practice. Many of them are living independently well into their 90s. They're gardening, walking, cooking, socializing. They're not superhuman. They're not genetically superior. They're simply living in a way that supports their body's natural capacity. You can do the same. You can start today. You can make a choice right now that your future self will thank you for. The squat practice is a gift you give yourself, a small daily ritual that compounds into profound long-term benefits. And the beautiful part is that once you feel your body responding, it becomes self-reinforcing. You'll want to practice because you'll feel the difference. Let's talk about what happens in your body during these squat holds that makes them so effective. When you lower into a deep squat, your hip joints move through their full range of motion. Inside those joints, you have synovial fluid, which is essentially your body's natural lubricant. Movement stimulates the production and circulation of this fluid. The more you move a joint through its range, the better lubricated and nourished it stays. Think of it like oil in a door hinge. If the door never opens, the hinge rusts. If you open it regularly, it stays smooth. Your hips are the same. Squatting regularly keeps them fluid and functional. At the same time, the muscles around your hips, your glutes, your hip flexors, your adductors, they're all actively lengthening and contracting. This maintains their elasticity and strength. Muscle tissue adapts to the demands you place on it. If you never ask your glutes to work through a deep range, they'll lose the capacity to do so. But if you practice squatting, you're constantly reminding those muscles what they're capable of. Your knees benefit too. There's a common misconception that deep squatting is bad for your knees. In reality, the opposite is true for most people. Controlled squatting, where your knees track properly and you're not bouncing or forcing the movement, actually strengthens the muscles and connective tissues around the knee joint. Your quadriceps, your hamstrings, the ligaments and tendons, they all get stronger and more resilient. The key word is controlled. You're not dropping into a squat or doing explosive movements. You're moving with intention and awareness. That's what makes it safe and effective. Now, if you have existing knee damage or pain, you work with a healthcare provider to determine what range is appropriate for you. Your body isn't a machine. It has good days and bad days. Hormones fluctuate. Sleep quality varies. Stress levels change. All of that affects your physical performance. The key is to show up consistently regardless of how you feel on any given day. The cumulative effect is what matters. I also want to emphasize that this practice is for everyone, regardless of your current fitness level. If you're already active, these squat variations will complement your existing routine and fill in gaps in your movement vocabulary. If you've been sedentary, they'll serve as a gentle reintroduction to functional movement. If you're somewhere in between, they'll challenge you in new ways and prevent the plateaus that come from doing the same exercises over and over. The beauty of the squat is that it's infinitely scalable. There's always a way to make it easier, and there's always a way to make it harder. You can spend the rest of your life exploring the nuances of this single movement pattern. Let's talk about progression beyond the 7 variations I've outlined. Once you can comfortably hold a flat-footed squat for 60 seconds, you might wonder what's next. Here are a few advanced options. 1. Add a weight. Hold a light dumbbell or a gallon jug of water at your chest while you squat. This increases the load and builds more strength. Start light and progress slowly. 2. Practice the Asian squat walk. While in a deep squat, take small steps forward, staying low. This is incredibly challenging for balance and leg strength. 3. Combine the squat with other movements. Squat down, touch the ground, stand up, reach your arms overhead. That's one flow. Repeat for several cycles. This integrates the squat into a dynamic sequence. 4. Hold the squat on an uneven surface like grass or sand. This adds an instability element that further challenges your stabilizers. 5. Practice transition speed. See how slowly you can lower into a squat. Aim for 10 full seconds from standing to the bottom position. This builds eccentric control. There's no end to the exploration. The squat is a foundational human movement, and you can spend years refining your technique, increasing your capacity, and finding new ways to challenge yourself. That's the beauty of working with fundamental patterns rather than machine-based exercises. A machine has a fixed range and a fixed purpose. Your body is adaptable and complex. There's always another layer to discover. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this all sounds great, but I don't have time. I get it. Life is busy, even in retirement. But here's the thing. We're talking about 5 to 10 minutes a day. You have that time. You might not think you do, but you do. You spend more time than that scrolling through your phone or watching TV. I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm saying that your priorities are a choice. If you choose to invest 10 minutes a day into a practice that could profoundly improve your quality of life for the next 20 or 30 years, that's one of the best uses of time you can imagine. Think about the return on investment. 10 minutes a day for a few months in exchange for better balance, more independence, less pain, greater confidence. That's a trade anyone should take, and here's a secret. Once you start, you'll probably find that you want to do more. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because it feels good. Your body will crave the movement. You'll notice that on days you skip your practice, you feel stiffer or less grounded. That internal feedback is powerful. It shifts the practice from something you have to do to something you want to do. That's when it becomes sustainable. That's when it becomes part of who you are. Let me share one final story, and then I'll leave you with a question. Eleanor, 78, a retired librarian from Maine, started practicing squat variations 2 years ago after watching a documentary about centenarians in Okinawa. She was the oldest person I'd worked with at that point, and I'll admit I was concerned she might be starting too late. She couldn't squat at all initially. Her hips were tight, her ankles were stiff, and she had some osteoarthritis in her knees. We started with the countertop squat. Very gentle, very supported. Eleanor was patient. She practiced every single day, sometimes twice a day. Progress was slow, but it was steady. After 6 months, she could do a doorway squat to parallel. After a year, she was holding a flat-footed squat for 20 seconds. Now, 2 years in, she can hold it for a full minute. But the metrics don't capture the real story. Eleanor lives alone. Before she started this practice, she was afraid of falling. She'd had a few close calls and it shook her. She was starting to think about moving into assisted living because she didn't trust her body. Today, she's still in her own home. She gardens. She walks her neighborhood. She gets down on the floor to play with her great-grandchildren. Last month, she told me she feels safer in her body now at 78 than she did at 75. She reclaimed years of independence through a simple daily practice. If Eleanor can do it at 78, you can do it at whatever age you are right now. So here's my final question for you, and I really want you to think about it. Drop your answer in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. Which of these 7 squat variations are you going to start with? And what's the one thing you're most hoping to gain from this practice? Is it better balance? Less pain? More confidence? The ability to play on the floor with grandkids? Whatever it is, name it. Write it down. Make it real. And then start tomorrow morning. Not next week. Not after you finish some other project. Tomorrow, 5 minutes. One variation. See what happens. Your future self is waiting for you to make this choice. Don't let them down. But for the vast majority of people, including those over 60, proper squatting is knee protective, not knee destructive. Let's move down to your ankles and feet. When you hold a flat-footed squat, your ankles are in dorsiflexion, meaning the front of your foot is pulling up toward your shin. This stretches your calf muscles and Achilles tendons, which tend to shorten and stiffen as we age, especially if you wear shoes with heels or spend a lot of time sitting. Maintaining ankle mobility is crucial for balance and gait. If your ankles are stiff, your body compensates in ways that can throw off your entire kinetic chain. You might develop knee pain, hip pain, or lower back pain, all because your ankles aren't moving properly. The squat directly addresses this. And your feet, those small intrinsic muscles in your arches and toes, they're working to stabilize you during the squat. This strengthens your foot structure and improves your proprioception from the ground up. Now let's talk about your spine. In a properly executed squat, your spine maintains its natural curves. Your lower back has a slight arch. Your mid-back is relatively neutral. Your neck is aligned with your spine. This position decompresses the vertebrae and allows the discs between them to hydrate and expand slightly. Many people carry chronic compression in their spines from sitting, standing with poor posture, or repetitive movements. The squat gives your spine a chance to lengthen and breathe. Additionally, the muscles that support your spine, your erector spinae, your multifidus, your transverse abdominis, they're all engaged to maintain that position. You're building deep core strength without doing a single crunch or plank. There's also a pelvic floor component that's particularly important for people over 60. Your pelvic floor muscles form a hammock at the base of your pelvis, supporting your bladder, bowel, and reproductive organs. These muscles can weaken with age, leading to issues like incontinence. Squatting engages and strengthens your pelvic floor in a functional way. When you lower into a squat, your pelvic floor lengthens. When you rise, it contracts. This dynamic movement keeps those muscles toned and responsive. It's one of the reasons why cultures that regularly squat have lower rates of pelvic floor dysfunction. Beyond the physical mechanics, there's a neurological benefit that's equally important. Your brain has a map of your body called the homunculus. Areas of your body that move frequently and precisely have larger representations in this map. When you stop moving in certain ways, those representations shrink. Your brain literally forgets how to control those movements efficiently. The squat practice keeps your motor cortex actively engaged with the full range of your lower body movement. Every time you practice, you're reinforcing those neural pathways. You're telling your brain, yes, we still need to know how to do this. Keep this skill online. That neurological maintenance is critical for preventing falls and maintaining independence. There's also an element of mindfulness built into this practice. When you're in a squat hold, especially if you're doing the breath hold or rotating variations, you can't think about anything else. You have to be present. Your mind can't wander to your to-do list or your worries. You're fully inhabiting your body in that moment. This kind of embodied presence has mental health benefits. It reduces anxiety. It interrupts rumination. It gives you a break from the constant chatter of your thoughts. In a way, the squat becomes a moving meditation. You're not sitting on a cushion trying to clear your mind. You're physically grounded in a position that demands your attention, and that demand creates mental clarity. Let me tell you about David, 67, a retired salesman from Colorado. David had struggled with mild depression for years. He wasn't interested in traditional exercise because he found it boring, and it felt like one more thing he was supposed to do. But he was curious about the Japanese longevity practices because he'd read an article about Okinawan centenarians. He started the squat practice without any expectation beyond maybe improving his mobility. What surprised him was the mental shift. He found that his morning squat routine became a ritual he looked forward to. Those 5 minutes were his. He wasn't answering emails. He wasn't watching the news. He was just in his body, breathing, holding the position, noticing what he felt. After a few weeks, he realized he was starting his days with a sense of calm he hadn't experienced in years. His depression didn't disappear, but it became more manageable. He told me the squat gave him an anchor, a daily practice that grounded him. That's the kind of holistic benefit we're talking about. This isn't just about your joints and muscles. It's about your whole being. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Why don't more American doctors recommend this? Why isn't this part of standard aging advice? The honest answer is that Western medicine tends to be reactive rather than proactive, and it tends to compartmentalize the body. You see a cardiologist for your heart, an orthopedist for your joints, a neurologist for your brain. Very few practitioners are looking at movement as a systemic intervention that affects everything. Additionally, there's a cultural bias in the West toward high-tech solutions. We want the pill, the surgery, the device that will fix the problem. Simple, no-cost movement practices don't have a marketing budget behind them. There's no pharmaceutical company or medical device manufacturer promoting the squat. It's just a movement, passed down through generations, proven by the lived experience of millions of people across cultures. But it doesn't fit neatly into our healthcare model. That's changing slowly. More progressive physical therapists, movement specialists, and even some physicians are recognizing the value of functional movement training for older adults. Concepts like movement as medicine and exercise as preventive care are gaining traction. But we're still years away from this being mainstream advice, which means the responsibility falls on you. You have to be proactive about your own movement health. You can't wait for your doctor to prescribe squats. You have to take the initiative. And here's the good news. You don't need permission. You don't need a prescription. You just need to start. I want to circle back to the cultural context for a moment because it's important to understand why this practice is so embedded in Japanese life. In traditional Japanese homes, furniture is minimal. People sit on tatami mats or floor cushions. Tables are low. This means you're constantly moving between floor level and standing. You're squatting to sit, kneeling to eat, folding your legs to relax. Children grow up with these movement patterns, so they never lose them. It's not that Japanese people are more disciplined or have better genetics. It's that their environment naturally encourages these positions. In America, we sit in chairs from the moment we're toddlers. Our furniture is designed to minimize effort. We lose the squat pattern because we never need to use it. But that doesn't mean we can't reclaim it. It just means we have to be intentional about it. One practical way to integrate this into your life is to create environmental cues. Put a sticky note on your kitchen counter that says squat. Place a cushion on the floor in your living room as a visual reminder to practice ground-level positions. Set an alarm on your phone twice a day for squat time. Make it easy to remember and hard to avoid. You're essentially hacking your environment to support the behavior you want to cultivate. Over time, the cues won't be necessary because the practice will become automatic. But in the beginning, those reminders help bridge the gap between intention and action. Another strategy is to find a practice buddy. If you have a spouse, a friend, or a neighbor who's also interested in improving their mobility, practice together. You can hold each other accountable. You can share your progress. You can encourage each other on days when motivation is low. There's something powerful about shared practice. It's less isolating and more sustainable. Plus, a little friendly competition can be motivating. Who can hold the squat for 5 more seconds? Who can progress to the next variation first? Keep it light and fun, but use that social element to your advantage. Let's also talk about what not to do. Don't get obsessed with depth at the expense of form. It's better to hold a shallow squat with your heels down and your spine aligned than to force yourself into a deep squat with your heels lifting and your back rounding. Form first, depth second. Depth will come with time and practice. Don't practice on an unstable surface when you're starting out. Solid ground is your friend. You want feedback from the floor. Once you're proficient, you can experiment with slight variations, but begin on stable footing. Don't hold your breath. We've talked about this, but it's worth repeating. Breathe smoothly and continuously. Holding your breath raises your blood pressure and creates unnecessary tension. Don't practice if you're in acute pain. Some muscle soreness is fine, but if you have sharp joint pain or you're recovering from an injury, give your body time to heal before adding load through these movements. Don't compare your starting point to someone else's end point. You're watching a video of someone who's been practicing for years and thinking, "I'll never be able to do that." You're right if you stop before you start, but if you commit to the process, you'll be shocked at what you can achieve. Progress is not linear. Some weeks you'll feel great and advance quickly. Other weeks you might plateau or even regress slightly. That's normal.